Good morning. I am Jen Ryan Brown, a member of the Unitarian Universalist Area Church at First Parish in Sherborne. Welcome to this place of possibility. This is Love's Hearth, the home of hope, a refuge for minds in search of truth unfolding, ever beautiful, ever strange. Here, compassion is our shelter, freedom our protection from the storms of bigotry and hate. In this abode, may we find comfort and courage. Here, may our sight become vision to see the unseen, to glimpse the good that is yet to be.
Thank you so much, Jen. Good morning, everybody. Welcome on this Sunday morning. Just a couple announcements today. The usual, if you have a chalice nearby, to grab that, and we're recording. And by the way, all the services have been recorded, and they're on our webpage. And there's like a little box that says YouTube, and you can see all of them there if you missed one. We still need some chalice lighters for actually the second half of April into May, and those first 2 Sundays in June. So the link is in all the usual communications to go and sign up for that. And you get to join us from maybe your highlight of the week, always ours on staff, the pre-worship meeting that begins at 10. Let's see, tonight is the Welcome Home Gathering. You saw an email about this. Well, it was in the email, I should say. It was in this morning, and you probably got a special invite as well. And what this is, it explains more about how your contributions to our capital campaign and our annual campaign can help us welcome one another home. Of course, beginning this summer with outdoor worship, and then into next year. And so tonight we have a Wonder Box, we have music from TNT, we have all kinds of cool stuff, and it's only 45 minutes. So I encourage you to come to that. And I think Emily or somebody's going to put in the chat box the Zoom link for that, just so you have that. And last but not least, you might have heard the music if you came on early in sort of the 10 minutes before. And that piano music is from our own Kathleen Castellanos. And she, because she doesn't do enough, she made an album that it's called Kathleen on the Keys, and you can get it on Spotify. We're going to also put that in the chat box too. It's totally cool. So, so there it is. So please click on that if you do have Spotify, and you can listen to Kathleen in your own time. So thanks, everybody. As usual, just if you want to join a little breakout room to say good morning to somebody, do that. If not, hang out, and we're going to start in just a couple minutes.
Spring has now unwrapped the flowers, day is fast reviving, life in all her growing powers, toward the light is striving, gone the iron touch of cold, winter time and frost. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Day is a breaking in my soul.
Good morning again, everybody, and thank you, Sarah, for the beautiful song and it's stock footage, but it's still gorgeous, isn't it? I forgot one announcement before we do our opening words, and that is that we are hosting, quote unquote, a Family Promise this week. And Family Promise is an organization that we've supported for many years to invite homeless families without a home into our building. And the way that hosting is looking like right now is that we're providing meals for these families. So I just wanted to note that our ministry, though different, still continues to express itself. So in particular, thank you to Maria Kempner and Nora and Katie Frasnelli in particular, and others for helping getting those meals together. So let us share in our opening words. I'll share the opening part, and then Jen Ryan Brown will do our response. Friends, holy are the places of memory,
the places which have formed us,
and holy are the places of the dream,
where all children are wanted and all people are fed,
and holy are the places of change and pain,
where the rivers of our lives run white and fast,
and holy are the places of connection,
where hands, touch souls, touch minds.
Holy are the places of becoming and the places of clear vision,
where life and world are intertwined.
and we can see forever in this moment.
And give thanks.
We'll now share an opening hymn.
Spring has now unwrapped the flowers, day is fast reviving, life in all her growing powers, toward the light is striving. Gone the iron touch of cold, winter time and frost time, seedlings working through the mold, now make up for lost time. Herb and plant that winter long slumbered at their leisure, now bestirring green and strong, find in growth their pleasure. All the world with beauty fills, gold the green enhancing, flowers make glee among the hills, set the meadows dancing.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to invite Donna Allen now to light our chalice and lead us in reciting our covenant.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Donna Allen, representing the Music Committee and the choir. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another.
Let me
So this morning, one of the great things about this year is we've been able to have guests for the Wonderbox time. And this morning we have Serena Lilly, who is one of the members of the Religious Education Committee, who's going to share a Wonderbox with us. So Serena, we are all yours, and we're going to spotlight you too here.
Hi, friends. I'm Serena, and this is my daughter, Tessa. We're members of the church, and like Reverend Nathan said, I'm on the Religious Education Committee, and pre-pandemic, I'm also a spirit play teacher. So Tessa and I are going to do the Wonderbox today, and Tessa let me use one of her toy boxes to put the items in. So let's see what's in here today. Tessa, why don't you take some stuff out? What's in there?
The church.
Oh, the church. Did you get your tiny church in the mail? This is such a fun thing. So special. I love my tiny church. So cute. What else did you get?
Paintings.
Paintings. Tiny paintings. Teeny tiny paintings. Okay.
Bush. A bush.
A tiny bush.
And then some cactuses.
And some tiny cactuses. And
butterfly garden.
And a tiny butterfly garden. That's it. What do you think all of these little things all together? What do they like? Do they remind you of anything? Like when you put them all together for church?
Well, I know what it is. So
Oh,
I
you
want
know.
to say it.
Oh, okay. So for me, when I put them all together, they remind me of one of my all-time favorite UUAC events, which is Art in Bloom. And if you're not familiar with this amazing event, this is how it works. So kids are invited to create a piece of artwork inspired by a theme. Don't mute us, okay? So we read a story and there's a short discussion and we get some ideas flowing, and then the kids just create. And then adults are invited if they are not, please, thank you. Adults are invited if they're feeling inspired and creative to interpret the child's artwork into a floral design. And all of the pieces, the child's artwork and the floral design displayed around the church. So all the items in the Wonderbox today are there for a few reasons that kind of tie together. I'm excited to say that we're going to hold Art in Bloom in person in kind of a COVID-19 protocol safe viewing May 15th in the sanctuary. The theme for Art in Bloom is going to be becoming. Just like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly or winter becoming spring, the church is going to become beautiful, full of our children's artwork and our friends' floral designs. And with everyone's generosity during the capital campaign, the church is also going to become safe and accessible and restored again. And it will also become home as our place of worship again. We'll use Art in Bloom to begin welcoming us all home in person. And when I got the little church in the mail, its arrival was a physical reminder of how much me and my family, Tessa, my husband Brendan, and I miss being together as a community with you all in the physical sanctuary. And as I look at it, I'm feeling encouraged to give as generously as possible to the annual campaign and the capital campaign to help the spaces be safer, more accessible, restore the steeple, and so that we can welcome each other home again next year. So keep an eye out for information on Art in Bloom in all the ways that you can participate. We're planning pandemic safe ways to keep it fun and interactive and something to really look forward to as a whole community. We'll keep in touch over the next few days with details on that and how we can participate and view all of the art and the flowers. That's it. Enjoy service today, everyone. Thanks.
Serena, thank you so much. And Tessa, thank you so much. Shared headphones is in particular. Um, well done. Thank you for your time and sharing. And thank you for helping to organize along with Kathy Healy, Art and Bloom. We're so excited to have this back. And Serena will, and everyone else will tell us how, when kids can participate in the art. So all art will be hung in the sanctuary. Some will be depicted into flowers or cacti or whatever else we want to do. So thank you so much. Well, everybody, another week has passed. Here we are in the early arrival of spring and of April. So just center yourself, be where you are, feel the air in your lungs, the floor underneath your feet, the chair underneath you, the light coming in from windows that you may be surrounded by. Just be here now in this moment. Leave what you have to leave behind and outside as you center yourself and center your heart and center your spirit for this time of stillness. We begin by listening to our prayer hymn this month, Becoming.
We are who we're becoming. We are all we have done. We are what we are dreaming. We've only just begun. We are who we're becoming. We are all we have done. We are what we are dreaming. We've only just begun.
We are who we are becoming. And as we look out over the candle flame into our beautiful sanctuary, we invite our prayers this morning. We hold so many, of course, for our loved ones and for the world, and our gratitudes that always need to be named. So as is our custom during this time, please use our chat box to say the name of a loved one, and I will share them as I'm able. For Brother Tom and sister-in-law Ann, for artists, for friend Chris, who is in cancer treatment, for Daryl as he heads out on Wednesday to hike the Appalachian Trail. Wow. Good luck, Daryl. For Maureen S., who's having neurosurgery today or tomorrow. For healing energy to Alan, for JJ, who has COVID. For Tipper, who passed away yesterday. Strength to Ryan. For students and parents dealing with challenges of online learning in our community and outside our community. For Jake and Frank, who have medical issues. For Nick, who struggles with grief and other emotional challenges. For Pat, who's nearing her last days. For Brianna and Iris. My brother has been unemployed for a long time and is losing hope of finding a job. For Margaret, who is recovering from surgery. Friends, we hold all of these names and the ones that will continue to come in as we also invite prayers for the world that we live in, the communities we belong to, and the communities that are outside of us. So for Celeste, who was born immature, for John Detweiler, recovering from surgery, for friends and family struggling from isolation and the blues, for granddaughter Millie, who is at Children's Hospital. Also think of all of the people in Myanmar, 82 who were lost yesterday to the protests from the government. Think of the people in Michigan and Minnesota and Illinois where COVID continues to rise and hospitalizations continue to rise in those states in particular. For those in Yemen facing racial cleansing, for Navalny in prison in Russia, for families and family promise, we are not getting to know them this year, but we keep them in our hearts. For the thousands of kids at the border, for those who are suffering from depression and anxiety, for those in India facing another COVID wave, for the migrants at the southern border, for the people of Britain who have lost Prince Philip. And as we name these places and people in the world, I also invite you to name your gratitudes. It's so easy to miss them, everybody. Let's name the things that we are grateful for we don't have to earn. For my granddaughter who's celebrating her 15th birthday, for the fairy garden, for my son John who got his vaccination yesterday, visiting him in 2 weeks. For my mom's company, for the support and love of friends and family. I will add for the beautiful day yesterday, for the warm weather that Kathy Gear just put in, for vaccines and all they make possible, a visit to Mount Auburn Cemetery, for art and bloom, for two boys who fill my heart with love, for Tara finally getting her first shot on Friday, getting to see my grandma after I'm fully vaccinated, for Margaret who lost her husband, for the blooming trees that make my allergies miserable, for our family, for being able to hug my friends again, for Maureen who just lost her husband, for Carol Massey finally in remission. Friends, all of these and so many more as they come in. We hold you. We hold those you love. We hold the communities we belong to and the community of the earth. Let us be held together in this moment of prayer. The prayer this morning is one that I ask for our children and for our parents, their parents, and the guardians and teachers and the lunch workers and the bus drivers and the janitors and the administrators as they all return in growing numbers this week and this month in Massachusetts. Friends, please pray with me in whatever way that word has meaning for you. As we say, Spirit of life and through life, dear God, all of these young ones and older ones will cross thresholds in the coming weeks. Thresholds out of the house with backpacks, maybe for the first time in a year. Thresholds past the accordion doors of buses, thresholds through the front doors of whole buildings, grade schools and high schools. Thresholds of classrooms and cafeterias and gyms and libraries, and thresholds into excitement for the chance to learn in person and see friends because the screen can be so lonely, and also thresholds into worry because COVID is still with us. And what a hard place for families to be in, between a longing to learn and grow among others and the fear that there is still risk. So Spirit of Life, hold all of our children and their families and the educational staff these weeks ahead, these weeks of excitement and longing and worry and fear. And help all of us, we pray, to keep some of what we have learned this year, that we needn't pile on the homework and the stress about grades and college entry and doing just a perfect thing, and instead help one another just be. Just go at a kid's pace. We don't have to do everything. We actually don't have to do much at all except the something that we can. So we pray for our children and their families and their guardians and our teachers and all of the people in our schools this week as we hold stillness together.
Kathy Healy will now introduce our offering this morning. Just a reminder that we take our offering through Realm. There will be a link in the chat box that you can follow and just designate whether you want your donation to go to this morning's recipient or to your pledge or both. And take it away, Kathy. Thanks so much.
Good morning. I am so grateful to be able to talk about people living halfway around the world, the Rohingya people. They have lived in Burma for hundreds of years, dating back to the 1400s. Because they are an undocumented ethnic group in Burma and Muslim, in 2017, the military-controlled government started to ethnic cleanse their population. So they fled their homes, their villages, their farmlands, their schools, their churches, and their country, and established 3 refugee camps in Bangladesh, one of the most impoverished countries in the world. Over 800,000 people now live in these camps. An organization called Community Partners International helped them build homes, find food sources, clean, drinkable water, and learn to build latrines and get much needed medical supplies. CPI has been working on the Burmese border since 1989, helping displaced people from Burma. When the Rohingya people needed to flee Burma, they already knew how to assist people living in refugee camps. People in refugee camps are resilient people. They want a better life for their families and they want safety. They work hard every day to establish a framework for their families. They live in tight quarters. Food is hard. Lavatory access is hard. Medical care is hard. Education for their children is almost non-existent. And now add COVID. Life is beyond hard. Sadly, on March 22nd of this year, a fire started in the early morning. By the time the fire in the camp was brought under control in the early hours of Tuesday, the 23rd, the devastation was hard to fathom. In just a few hours, it destroyed more than 10,000 shelters and displaced 50,000 people, half of whom are children. At least 11 people lost their lives, including 3 children. More than 500 people were injured, and at least 400 remain missing. An estimated 1,600 community facilities, including hospitals, distribution points, and learning centers were lost in the fire. While trying to cope with this latest tragedy, the refugees immediately set to work to rebuild their homes and lives, and Community Partners International mobilized this effort. An immediate priority was to clear the fire debris so that families could safely return and construction for new shelters could begin. Immediately on Thursday after the fire, teams of more than 500 host communities and Rohingya volunteers supported by CPI began the arduous process of removing tons of fire debris. As much as the camp cannot be accessed by heavy machinery, most of the work had to be done by hand. Volunteers worked together, clearing debris into sacks and carrying that across the hilly terrain to access points where diggers and trucks could load up the debris and transport it away from the site. While several hundred people are still missing, the volunteers worked carefully as they were aware they might uncover human remains. As soon as the area was cleared, families started trickling back and put up makeshift tents while they waited for building materials to construct more permanent homes. The hillsides have already become dotted with these tents. I cannot imagine what this would be like. They have moved from their homelands. Nature has given them unbelievable events and now a fire. Today we are collecting for CPI, Community Partners International, a group that has been in the camps, that is helping the displaced people to find new housing, trying to meet their needs on a day-to-day basis. Thank you for anything that you can give, and please send your prayers.
Thank you, Kathy. You can see our instructions here and the link is in the chat box. Please give as you are able. Thank you.
Be like the bird that, pausing in her flight, a while on boughs to slight, feels them give way beneath her, and sings and sings and sings, knowing she hath wings. Be like the bird that, pausing in her flight, a while
Oh, thank you, Sarah. Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you, thank you. I'd like to invite Alan Cantor now to give us our reading this morning.
God speaks to each of us as God makes us, by Raina Maria Rilke. God speaks to each of us as God makes us, then walks with us silently out of the night. These are the words we dimly hear. You, sent out beyond your recall, go to the limits of your longing. Embody me. Flare up like a flame and make big shadows I can move in. Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final. Don't let yourself lose me. Nearby is the country they call life. You will know it by its seriousness. Give me your hand.
Thank you, Alan. And good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. Thank you, as always, for showing up here today, for showing up for yourselves and for each other and for this community. In this hard, strange time, it is more important than ever that we show up for each other in any way we can, and to remind us that we belong to each other and that we are in this with each other. Today is April 11th. And spring, I'm happy to say, is beginning to be sprung across our region. The daffodils and the forsythia are in bloom. The birds, so many birds, are chirping, just like the birds in that beautiful video that Sarah played. And some of the bare branch trees outside my window have that green haze on them that you see that you know means all the leaves are on their way. Spring is arguably my favorite season. I say arguably because a cool, crisp fall day in New England just cannot be beat, in my personal opinion. And I would choose fall or spring over summer or winter, because I'm not really a fan, if I'm being honest, of the extreme cold or the extreme heat. I like the in-between times when the days are warmer and the nights are cooler, and the leaves are gold in the fall, or there's a sudden burst of flowers blooming in the spring. So as we stand on this threshold of spring, we are standing on another threshold too. This Sunday last year, and I cannot believe it was a year ago, but this Sunday last year, I preached a sermon about liminal space, about how we were all suspended in this time of uncertainty and anxiety. I said in that sermon that since our normal time had been upended, that it was okay to let go of all of the judgments that we placed on ourselves about our productivity, that we could all just embrace the pajama pants and the binge watching and the really just not knowing what to do. And now, today, we stand on the threshold of post-pandemic life. The Irish poet John O'Donoghue describes the word threshold this way. Threshold was related to the word thresh, which was the separation of the grain from the husk or straw when oats were flailed. Flailed, I guess, means processed. Threshold also includes the notions of entrance, crossing, border, and beginning. To cross a threshold is to leave behind the husk and arrive at the grain. Now, I know the pandemic is not actually over yet. It will be at least a few more months before we can actually say that we're beginning to emerge from the pandemic. I say that knowing full well that some of us are already crossing the thresholds of going back to school, going back to work. So we're all kind of in different places on this spectrum of threshold crossing. Also, cases are on the rise again in many places in this country and across the world. And some are saying unbelievably that we are actually headed for a fourth wave. So we're kind of in different places all across the spectrum. But also, what's also true is most states are or are close to offering vaccines to all adults. As of this past Friday, 20% of the entire US population is fully vaccinated, and millions more like myself have received at least the first shot. So while we're not out of the woods yet with vaccines, we are inching ever closer to herd immunity. We're closer than ever to crossing the threshold of post-pandemic life, to post-pandemic life, I should say. So what will it look like once we're all on the other side of that threshold? You got me. I have no idea. None of us do. All I know is that there will not be a return to normal. Some things will return. We will travel again. We will eat in restaurants again. So a lot of us are already doing sort of doing these things, but many things will be indelibly altered. Our way of life, especially work and school and church, will grow and change to be a new normal. But that's not the only threshold that's in front of us. This pandemic has revealed a few more thresholds that we're all being invited to cross. The waves of protest sparked by the police killing of George Floyd last May revealed a threshold to many, many white Americans. After years, centuries really, of anti-Black violence and murder, George Floyd's death somehow became a tipping point for much of white America. White supremacy culture became truly visible to many of us for the very first time in our lives. It became something more than the language of white robes and burning crosses. So many of us, especially in our faith in Unitarian Universalism, launched ourselves into understanding white supremacy culture and reckoning with the unearned privilege that our skin color affords us. This threshold of understanding and dismantling our racist culture is not a one and done kind of thing, of course. Many Black Americans are highly skeptical of our newfound awareness, as well they should be. We have been promising them freedom, safety, and equality for over 250 years, and we have repeatedly failed to deliver. This threshold is merely a point on the long journey of racial reckoning that is the story of this nation. And yet it is a threshold that's important because crossing it may make the next leg of the journey possible. Our national political system has been a hot mess these last few years, more than a few years, really. No matter where you are on the political spectrum, you cannot deny that the divisive and angry nature of our country's politics has done incredible damage to the fabric of our society. And on January 6th, when a mob of domestic terrorists stormed the Capitol building to attempt to overturn a presidential election, another threshold was revealed. Yes, we are so siloed in our political thinking that a majority of one of our two parties believed the election was stolen without an ounce of evidence to prove their claims. We are indeed so divided that a faction of our population thought their only recourse was to take by force, that the only solution was to incite civil war. Now, while we can heap lots of blame on the perpetrators for their hostile actions, this moment can't help but hold all of us accountable in some way. Is this our country? Is this what our founding fathers wanted when they built a democracy for us? Here, I believe we have two thresholds. One signifies the passage into further aggression, animosity, and violence. We can stay polarized, we can keep hating each other, and we can just watch our world crumble around us. The other threshold offers a path out of this darkness towards greater understanding, collaboration, and compromise, towards a reckoning with the inherent worth and dignity of each person and the interdependent web of existence. The hardest part of this threshold, though, is that we have to build this path as we walk it. It does not exist. It is not offered to us. We have to create it as we go. Because see, thresholds hold great potential and great danger. They offer the possibilities of transformation, of awakening, of change. And they also hold the potential for future destruction and suffering and grief. Thresholds are a time of reckoning. As a nation, as a globe, the thresholds we are present an unprecedented opportunity. How many times this year have you heard the word unprecedented? Unprecedented opportunity to reckon with inequality, poverty, oppression, and suffering. None of us can see the future. None of us knows how our country will approach these thresholds. Though I will say that for myself, I am heartened by the efforts being made by the current administration to address all of these social ills. And also the continued work for justice and equality in this faith in Unitarian Universalism tells me that these thresholds of reckoning will not be wasted. So while this is a collective moment in our human history, the other thing to know is that it is also intensely personal. We are each of us facing our own thresholds. And for many of us, thresholds give us the opportunity to break with the past and build something new. For example, I think about how the pandemic will change a lot about how many of us do our work in the future. The potential greater flexibility that we might have to work from home, spend more time with family, and have a bit more agency over our schedules. Now, that's not true for all of us, and I do get that, but it's one example, and I think there will be many more emerging. And thresholds are also doorways of grief, because on the threshold, you have to reckon with what gets left behind. We are each of us grieving losses in this pandemic, loss of loved ones, loss of employment, loss of community. We are all grieving the loss of community and the loss of opportunity. There was so much safety and assurance in that normal time that we didn't and couldn't really recognize it until it was taken away from us. So much of what we all did in our daily lives back then told us who we were, what we were capable of, what was important to us. Grieving those losses is an important part of the crossing, and it needs our attention and our care. Our reading this morning spoke to me about this grief that I'm talking about, but also the work of building something new. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke says, "You set out beyond your recall. Go to the limits of your longing. Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final." Friends, what thresholds are you seeing in front of you? When you think about John O'Donohue's definition of threshold as the grain being stripped from the husk, what grains are you noticing? What reckonings or possible transformations are being revealed? And what are the husks that you want to, or in some cases, have to strip away and leave behind? What grief is demanding a reckoning in you? Or what new understanding is waiting to be formed on the other side? Are you contemplating a lifestyle change, a career change, a relationship change? Have you deepened or changed your spiritual practice? Has our racial and political reckonings changed your view of the world irrevocably? What are these thresholds revealing to you in your heart and in your mind? As Rilke says, let everything happen to you. It might be argued that we don't really have a choice. It is hard and sometimes scary work to let yourself be open to transformation. But it is even harder to cling to what can no longer exist. There are unshakable truths that you can hold on to in these crossings. I promise you that. There is the truth that you belong to this beloved community. There's the truth that we are here to support and love each other through change, especially so much change like we are experiencing right now. It is true that life is a journey that is marked by transformation. You cannot escape it for long. And it is true that the world of peace that we all want is indeed possible. And the way we get there is together. So just keep going, friends. That's all I ask. Just keep going. May it be so. Amen. Please join us for our closing hymn, For All That Is Our Life. The words will be printed on the screen.
We sing our thanks and praise, for all life is in
Friends, please join me in saying our call to ministry. The words are in the chat box. We go forth into the world in peace to act with works of love, to affirm each person's dignity, and to cherish the living earth. Friends, we all have many potential thresholds to cross, but I hope you know, as I do, that we do not take these journeys alone. You are each held in support, in community, and in love as we all face the thresholds in our path. May it be so. Amen, and go in peace. Please stick around after our postlude for our coffee hour, 15 minutes in a breakout room with about 6 to 8 other people. We'll hope you join us. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great week.